Hello, my name is Renee Baribeau, and I'm known as the Practical Shaman, coming to you with the weekly Wind Spirit card pull, which I do online live most weeks. Sometimes I don't. So if you're waiting, you might want to pick up the book so you can do your own weekly Wind Spirit card. This is a Hay House best-selling Nautilus of Gold award-winning book. Wow, that's a mouthful. Hay House best-selling Nautilus Gold award-winning book in religion. Okay, so what's very interesting about the winds that I pulled today is that this morning, one of the Wind Clan members, which is a group on Facebook, said she was getting married and she hadn't downloaded her free copy or purchased her Wind Whistler's toolkit. And so I pulled a wind for this couple and I got the South Wind, which is a cardinal wind. And it's about once you begin something new, you're always put back into the unfinished business of your emotions. You know, what is there still left to do? What do you have that's coming up? And what does this new beginning bring up for you emotionally? And as a couple, you know, it's now not just one, it's two of you, which creates a third entity. So I thought that was a really interesting wind to get on your wedding day. Then I reached in and I'm there like, well, should I just use the South Wind as the weekly wind pull? And I kind of got this, no, pull another wind. And so the wind that I pulled was another cardinal wind, which is, if you've studied any of the Wind Clan work with me, you'll know that the North Wind is Boreas, which is the wind of that we're moving into in this time of fall into winter. We're moving towards that northern quadrant. And for those of you who are south of the equator, then you're probably moving more towards the south wind. So that these winds are on an axis and that they're always holding space with each other. So it's not so terribly surprising that I pulled both of those winds in the same day as opposed to the horizontal winds of the east and the west, which are new beginnings and endings. So the south wind is about our emotions and the north wind is about our spiritual well-being, how we connect in community, whether we get a community buy-in for things, or how we are doing in our spiritual life. So ask yourself, how is my spiritual conditioning this week? Well, one way of always testing it is, you know, to do something with your family. Nothing like a wedding to test your spiritual conditioning or your emotional conditioning for all that matter. I just returned from a trip back east where I saw a stepbrother that I haven't seen in 32 years. And it was just such a heartwarming reconnection. And then I started thinking about people I hadn't seen in a while. And I went onto my Facebook page because about 2 years ago, a woman that was one of my more significant early relations reached out to me and expressed that she was getting a divorce. And I wrote back to her and I didn't hear back. And, you know, I don't know what brought me from seeing Patrick to then all of a sudden thinking about this woman. But when I got home last night from this East Coast trip, I went on and I looked up her Facebook page because she had mentioned she was going through a divorce, and it was memorialized. Within a week, within 3 weeks of writing me, this dear friend of mine passed away, and I didn't go back there until yesterday. Why, I don't know. I certainly reached out to her mother and expressed my condolences this morning. And now, today, for me, sitting in this spiritual place is all of the significant relationships that I've had in my life. And that's probably what I'm going to be looking at. And so when you open up into the winds of spirit, say you just open to a page and you're looking, you know, how to use this book. When you look, say you open to Carrie, the Malaysian wind of expression. And for me today, I would go to the north. And Carrie brings collective wisdom from the north. Without the community's expressed agreement, projects lack soul energy. Cooperation is the key to harmony and the door to wisdom. New opportunities waft from the thicket when you are willing to negotiate and compromise with others. The landscape may appear as a jungle or a rugged mountain peak, but with the collective support, community survival is guaranteed. While the chief of the tribe was often the shaman or medicine man that went first, he was not above anyone, as everything and everyone is equally infused with Carrie's breath of life. That's very interesting, because that's kind of understanding that the more you grow spiritually, that deeper understanding that you're not you're not above everyone, you're just different from everyone. And that was probably a lesson that I had to learn over the years many, many times, and especially holding a larger group and community, that how do we do this? How does everyone contribute? And in the old days, people would bring the shamans chickens for their work. And now we have to use what we use. Money is one of those collective bargaining things, or showing up in a committed, supported way. So that's kind of been coming up for me recently as well. And actually deciding, hey, this isn't in working for the group's highest good if people are just coming to take, and shifting that too. So ask yourself this week, am I getting the community buy-in for my projects? Am I moving forward in my life? Does the community show up fully to support this work? And most of the time I'd have to say yes, but it's just kind of interesting that the things that I'm working with in the Spiritual North this week are community, death, endings, and balancing a new wedding. All right. I'm Renee. I hope this makes some sense. You can read all about it in the book Winds of Spirit, which you can get on Amazon, my website if you want it signed. And let's call to the north. Let's call to that northern wind, and let's call to the south wind. Let's call first to the north wind and then to the south wind, that through our spiritual hearts, our spiritual conditioning, that we can balance our emotional landscapes today. And if you ever think the cold north wind is more powerful than the emotional south wind, there's a story in the book from Vayu where it's about the snake and the wind, who is more powerful, and eventually it becomes to a draw. So with the north wind and the south wind, that cold, harsh wind of the winter was always met by the naive wind of the south that would come and challenge that, those icicles to melt, so people would live in community, live in harmony. So we can't have one pole without the other. All right, I'm Renee Baribeau. I'm the Practical Shaman, and bringing you a little bit of wind wisdom here this week.